We will start in 5 minutes.
Noted, sir.
It's live now.
पाबरी अलग आती है कनेक्ट होते हैं
You can share title screen, Karishma ma'am. We are live now.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah. Yeah. Who is this?
We can start now.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay, let's start. First of all, I would like to thank everyone for attending our FDP. Today is our day 3 of our FDP, and our focus on today's FDP is the art of research paper writing. So this is going to be taken by Dr. Karishma. To give you a brief idea about Dr. Karishma is an associate professor and an associate program director at Atlas Skilltech Curiosity with 13 years of teaching experience. She is a senior IEEE member and a PhD supervisor. She has pursued her MCOM, PGDBA from Symbiosis, UGC NET, PhD Commerce in the subject of Business Policy and Administration. She was previously program chairperson for BBA LLB program at NMMS School of Law. She is a passionate teacher, researcher, author, soft skills trainer, and Posh enabler. She has published many research papers in ABDC, Scopus, IEEE, and UGC peer-approved journals. She has mentored over 50 students to publish their research papers in peer-reviewed journals. Her latest book, chapter publication in the Emerald Book series on the adoption of artificial intelligence on human resource management, is her latest feat. She is a peer reviewer for Emerald Studies in finance and insurance management. She has been the conveyor and co-conveyor of many national and international seminars, has presented her papers in national conferences and also chaired sessions for international conferences. She has also been a resource person for many FDPs and refresher courses. She won the National Award for the Best Enactus Faculty Leader, sponsored by Mahindra and Mahindra in the year 2016, and has won the Best Faculty Award at her previous education institute in NMIMS in the year 2022. She is passionate about using various pedagogical innovations to migrate from teaching to learning, and her focus areas are human resource management, artificial intelligence, leadership, organizational psychology, and disruptive technology. I welcome Dr. Karishma for the FDP. Any questions? Kindly please, everyone, if you have any questions, kindly put them in the chat, please. Thank you so much, and I'll hand over to Dr. Karishma.
Thank you very much, Aditya sir, for such a kind introduction. And also, I thank Varsha ma'am and Aditya sir so much for giving me an opportunity to present my today, given me an opportunity to present on to ACE the art of research paper writing. Today's presentation is primarily focused on how, as teachers, as professors, we can create and foster a culture of research amongst our young students and build in a culture of scientific temper amongst them. They are young, they are still learning, but however, I have noticed in my years of experience as a professor that a lot of them have got this curiosity to do research. It's just the structured methodology that we need to teach them. And in today's presentation, I will focus more on how we can make our university student-centric, research-centric. So that more and more quality publications, we can focus when it comes to students. Um, Moving on to what is research, I'm not getting too much into all of these basics. That is, of course, it's a secret of getting ahead. The research is a systemized effort to gain new knowledge. Now, the main part is, why do we want to do a research? First and foremost, for us as professors, for our own career advancement, CAS or PBAS, research is a prerequisite criteria. For our promotions, it's very important for our promotions as well as our own growth as professors. Research is very important component. I honestly feel that when I have started to work in the arena of research, I have always grown as a professor. I've grown as a teacher. So I feel that research and teaching both are beautifully synthesized with each other. And it's very important for us as teachers to constantly research so that we bring the best to our students in the classroom. So definitely it's a CAS requirement. And then there were a lot of sessions that were previously presented before me, which focused on why research is important and how we can get funding. So I'm not getting into that. We need to create a culture of research and scientific temper, especially when we are living in an era where there is so much of knowledge hoarding and knowledge hiding, that it completely hampers and dampens the spirit of a curious researcher. So I feel that if we create a culture of collaborative learning and peer-to-peer learning, where all our colleagues across design, across UGDX and ISME can collaborate beautifully for research, it will definitely foster a culture where there will be a lot of interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary research. So we need to deal with the problems that typically arise out of knowledge hoarding and knowledge hiding, and try to create a culture where we stop working in silos. Next is peer-to-peer learning. Is that I feel when you're working with students for research, please handpick those students who are genuinely interested in research. I totally agree that all students will not be interested. So, first, it's your duty to analyze if the child has the right temperament, attitude, and aptitude for research. So, then once you've identified them, it's a good idea for you to group them in groups of two, not more, so that they can work collaboratively after you have finished explaining them the preliminary steps for research. Of course, when it comes to research, we need research for our NIRF National Institutional Ranking Framework as well as our NAC rankings. Lot of NRIF rankings work on the premises of faculty research, especially Scopus publications. Next is to contribute to the existing body of literature. That's the main focus of research. If you're going to go on writing research papers which were very similar or replicas of what has been previously published, it's not going to get accepted by quality and peer reviewed journals, especially A and B category journals. Will definitely reject manuscripts if you're sharing, old wine in a new bottle. You need to understand that you have to bring in some new contribution to existing body of literature. Either you play with theoretical framework, or you bring in some new perspective, or create a framework which makes your paper distinctive and thus makes it fit for the journal based on the theme where you are publishing it. Of course, all these good quality publications will definitely get you there. Let me make academic writing easy. So now whatever slides I'm presenting currently, I'm going to go a little fast because the slides that are coming by are more important. This is from a student's perspective. Try to make them, we are living in an era where they're all the time scrolling social media. You may have been dealing with a lot of the perils of them having their phone on with them all the time. So, we need to make them, go into a system where they start to read more. When they read more, what will typically happen is that it will influence the quality of their writing. And once they finish reading, it's a next step is to start writing. You may say that in times of artificial intelligence, I'm talking of the student making pointers and writing what fascinates them. But truly, their brain will be rewired to understand the prose, the text extremely well. They will be understanding the nuances of what they're reading in more detail if they make it a habit to write what they read. Not exhaustively, but yes, the pointers. They can do a small exercise where they can write on the left hand side what they have understood, and right hand side what their author is saying. And when they are going to synthesize that information, that's when they'll be able to create real new text. What happens is we are living in a world where we always want to get our research publications or our papers, getting it done fast, but efficiently and effectively. Every time the system will not work. You know what, there are times like when we talk about taking notes handwritten, it's not a very efficient way of doing things. It's not, it may have a lot of lopsided effects where you may lose the notes and probably it's time consuming. But the most effective way that I feel, especially when it comes to students, for them to understand the text, understand the nuances and the prose, they will be able to process what they read really well when they are able to write the main pointers. And this is one major giveaway that I'm giving to you. When they read the text, it's very good idea for them to give their own take on what they're writing, and they can go on repeating this exercise. In a matter of time, they will have a lot of text with them. What actually dissuades a researcher is that first, they get extremely overwhelmed by the concept of research paper writing in general. Second, they feel that they're too young and they're not fit or they're not qualified to do research paper publication. So we as their coaches and mentors have the onus on us to make them feel confident and make them understand the nuances better so that they feel they will be able to write research papers very well. What you can do is what strategy I use, I will share with you. You can always create levels for students. Like F5 students could be, intermediate is a base level, is a beginner level. Then you have an intermediary level, and then you have an advanced level in T5. So what happens is in the first year, you just teach them the nuances of the paper writing. You write the research papers only based on secondary data. You write research papers only on review of literature. Then you move to the intermediate level, then you start teaching them the concept of, research methodologies, sampling, or certain tools that can be used in research. And in the third year, you can actually talk to them about data analysis. So this way, you get 3 years to span out your research in a manner that does not overwhelm the students too. Um, Also, when you do this process of making them write what they are understanding from the text that you're giving them to read, they will have some research ready. You know what overwhelms a researcher the most? A blank screen. So when they know that it's okay if they even if they've written 10 lines, or even if they've written 5 lines per day, but at least they're getting, their work is happening, they're getting their research paper in place, automatically they will definitely get motivated. Moving on to understanding how we can structure the paper for the students better. First, what happens is the students need to understand when we talk about creation of, um when we talk about the structure of the paper. First and foremost, you need to tell them before you move to the structure that they need to search for papers on Google Scholar or Semantic Scholar for the beginners. They can always type the keywords and they can use a Scopus word. When you filter in, use the word Scopus or WAS, Web of Science Index Journal, automatically you'll get a set of papers which are Scopus and which are WAS Index. Next step is to see that you are using research papers only from the past 3 to 4 years, preferably only 3 to 4 years, because we want the most contemporary research papers to be used for the purpose of for in the references. Also, the paper should only be from Scopus or WAS repository. Reason being, if I'm a reviewer and I'm going to look at your research paper, before I read your whole paper, the first thing that I'm going to get to is your references. And if I see in your references are not from Scopus or Web of Science, I will reject these papers because you have not used the papers and the references are not from the highly indexed journals. Also, if you're looking at ABDC category papers, especially A category papers, you have to know that you have to create an Excel sheet and you have to see to that all the papers that you are using are from A and A star journals only. You cannot publish in an A category journal if you're going to use references from a B and C category journal. So you need to understand these nuances better so that your chances of acceptance improve. Also, what's the next step is that whenever you do a Google Scholar search, it's best to identify since 2023, since 2024 option is there on the left side of Google Scholar. When you click on these options, you'll get to know the Scopus Index papers that are published in 23 and 24. Once you get to know the list of papers that are published in these years, you'll be able to identify what are the keywords that are trending in these past years. Accordingly, you can pick up those important keywords and write research papers aligned to those keywords. That way, the chances of your paper to get accepted are higher because you are writing papers on the keywords that are getting published. So these are the smaller nuances which you should teach the children early on so that they just don't write research papers on topics that they like, but on topics which are trending, but on topics where there is already enough literature review. If I don't have enough literature review, it's not a good idea to start writing on a paper arbitrarily without thinking well in advance. I think what I said now is really important, and we move on to understanding how to roll out an abstract. Abstract is like a trailer of the movie. Abstract is one of the most intriguing and the interesting part of the paper. So if I read some abstract of a paper and it does not intrigue me to actually pay for and purchase the manuscript, I will definitely not want to read the entire paper. So it's heart of the paper. I always feel that abstract is the heart of the paper. Many people start with writing the abstract first, which is a very bad idea. I feel the abstract should always be written at the last, at the end. It should always be placed at the start of the paper, but it should be written at the last. As you can see, abstract should definitely include, first and foremost, when I'm writing the abstract of the paper, I should start with what is the purpose of the study. When I'm highlighting the purpose of the study, it's very important for me to share what were the previous researchers done in that arena and what new I'm bringing to the table. So if I'm going to write a research paper on the impact of imposter syndrome influencing women's leadership style, it's a good idea for me to talk about what previous work has been done in this arena before. Like I can start with previous studies focused on the antecedents of imposter syndrome, whereas this study primarily focuses on imposterism impacting women's leadership style. This one sentence itself will showcase how my paper is distinctive from previous body of work. So always start your purpose of the paper on the right note. Move on to writing the objective or the what motivated you to write this paper. So it should be very clear and the significance of the paper should come across very crisply and clearly in the abstract itself. If your paper is going to be a paper based on the premises of secondary data and review of literature, it's very important for you to maintain that in the methodology that you've used Scopus and WAS index journals or ABDC journal papers only for the purpose of references. So you have to very clearly state that how many papers have you used or what was a funneling process or how that you have used only Scopus papers or WAS index papers. You need to make that mention in your research methodology in the abstract very, very distinctively. You need to mention the findings. That's why it's not a good idea to write the abstract at the first, because you need to write what is the conclusion of your research in the abstract. It should ideally be embedded in it. So it's not correct for me to write the findings without actually unraveling the entire research paper. So always know that try to write the abstract at the end. Always place it in the first, but always write it towards the end. I repeat, you have to put in a purpose. There should be research implication. There should be keywords. There should be the objectives and the significance of the study. And definitely there should be a conclusion. Keywords. Now, when I told you about keywords, remember that your keywords will get you the citations. Your keywords will be the reason why your paper will be handpicked by the peer reviewers. So it's very important for you to identify the right keywords based on which your paper is going to get, you're writing your paper on. So what you can do is try to put in your keywords in Google Scholar. Like for example, if I'm writing on artificial intelligence and talent management 5.0, it's good idea for me to write talent management and artificial intelligence Scopus in Google Scholar, or talent management plus artificial intelligence in Scopus in Google Scholar, or I put it in inverted commas. So I can use and, I can use plus, I can use inverted comma. And when I do that, I get multiple variants of these searches. Based on this, I get multiple results. Once I receive multiple results, it's good idea for me to go on the left hand corner and click on since 2023 and since 2024. When I click that, now I get very contemporary research. When I get contemporary research, I can identify the top 7 to 8 keywords based on which these papers are getting published. Now, what thumb rule, what I feel I follow, I will share with you. Take references only from top category journals. Identify them like Taylor and Francis, Elsevier, Emerald, Springer, then Sage, Wiley's. There are 7, 8 top journals. Please stick to them. Do not play around much. So automatically you are playing safe. You are selecting only those journals which are the top category journals, but the chances for you to go wrong is very less. Also note that all Emerald journals are not Scopus indexed. So it's very important for you to cross verify the Scopus factor or Scopus indexation of these journals. Moving on to the next part, that is introduction. So when we talk about introduction, now I'm going to talk to you about how we are going to layer the introduction paragraph. So whenever you start with introduction, it's good idea for you to define the concepts. See that you're using in-text citation and you can use inverted commas when you're defining the concepts. So all the independent and the dependent variables that you're going to use and the keywords, it's good idea for you to define those concepts. Next, what you can do is you can show the evolution of the concept. Like for example, if I'm going to talk about how artificial intelligence tools are used for talent management 5.0. It's good idea for me to track how AI tools have been used to curb attrition right from the onset of it to what is trending right now. So you show the evolution of the concept. Next, talk about highlight the research gap. That means what has been previously done compared to what you're looking at and where you have identified that gap. Now it's the most important. If you're looking at high quality peer reviewed journals, they definitely expect you to add a theoretical framework. So try to bring in a literature review which will bring some kind of theoretical framework to it. You have some theory, pre-existing theories which you can collate and corroborate with your variables, and this becomes a very important factor, and it should be ideally done in the introduction paragraph. Try to see that you add in the next layer, you add some statistics. You can take secondary data at this stage. You can pick up statistics from McKinsey, from Deloitte, from United Nations reports, census data, Business Today, Economic Times, Statistia, Tractia, SHRM, Harvard Business Review, Gallup. You can use all these sources where you can pick up relevant statistical data. Please use in-text citation and proper referencing style when you use statistics. So if you note, I'm showing you how to layer your introduction, first with the definition, then talk about a little bit about the evolution of the concept, identify the gap in literature review, create a layer for the theoretical framework, then talk about add some statistics. Last layer you can also do is that you can put in articles, you can put examples. So for example, if I'm talking about how AI tools can be used in talent management 5.0, it's good idea to quote examples of organizations which are using AI tools for talent management 5.0. So why I'm sharing with you, when someone reads the introductory paragraph, it unravels a story that should be, it should be interesting and intriguing to the person who's reading your research work. One big do for a research paper is submission is when you people what they do typically is they write research papers and then they decide where they want to send their research papers to. It's a very good idea for you to first identify the journal, identify the theme of the journal, write your entire manuscript based on the premises and the guidelines based on what the journal's expectations are. And it's a very, very good idea for you to cite research papers from that same journal. So because you're going to have more number of citations from the journal that you are writing to, the chances for you to get accepted are higher, because then their citations would increase because you're citing research work from their journal. Also, it's a good idea for you to write in open access journals. The chances for you to get cited are higher. One more thing, what we can do as peer-to-peer researchers is we can always, if you're, true-blooded researchers and we are really wizards and not muggles, and we're trying to foster a culture of true research, we should really foster our friendship uh, by citing each other's work. So when we citing each other's work, we are definitely helping each other for every type of career advancement. Making my point very clear, I move on to methodology. Now, whenever we talk about methodology, right now, I'm not talking about any statistical data. I'm only talking about, I'm not talking about any research based on empirical evidences. So we are talking about methodology only in terms of research papers written on the premises of secondary data. So please mention that your papers are from the Scopus and WAS repository. Right, your tables should be very, when we talk about the results, it should be very clear, precise. It's a good idea for you to put in tables and figures and do the right citations even then. It's very good idea for you to bring in frameworks, because without tables, without newly curated frameworks, please don't take copy paste other people's work. Try to create tables and frameworks which showcase that you have contributed to existing body of literature review. You can take some, for example, We have done it with one of our papers recently, that we used a moderating variable to collate and to bring in some kind of synergy between the independent and dependent variable. And based on that premise, we created a new framework. So when you create a framework, the chances, and you should have that framework based on previous literature review and based on previous theories. So you should have a lot of literature review to support your theoretical framework that you've created. Now, the paragraph, when it comes to discussion, I feel the discussion paragraph is a very, very important paragraph for a researcher. If you see the best paragraphs for discussion, what I've observed in my years as a researcher is the ones that is written in Elsevier, even Emerald. So they layer it out. I am a very big fan for layering research. So if you notice, discussion paragraph is layered into three parts. They don't show the distinctions, but if you see while you read, you can see the layering beautifully drafted with finesse. When we talk about discussion, the first layering is about the findings. That means you talk about the important findings of researchers across the globe. Second paragraph is about your vital findings. What did you find from your research? And then the most important paragraph in the discussion is how you corroborate that findings that you have found from previous researchers and your own research. Sometimes those findings could be distinct, could be different, and that's how you highlight how your findings are novel, how your findings are truly a value addition to pre-existing body of literature. So this is the paragraph which actually makes and breaks your research paper. This is the paragraph is what the reviewer is actually reading very critically, because this is the paragraph they get to know whether you're actually contributing to existing body of literature or you're repeating previously done work. Conclusion should be clear and should talk about what were your major findings of the research, and you can also talk about how the future road for research, what new can be done in this arena, and what researchers can look at, which probably because of time constraints you could not complete. Please note that whenever you go ahead with the references, never do your references before identifying which journal you're submitting your research paper to. Every journal has got their own set of guidelines, and some have APA, MLA, IEEE. It's very important for us to note that which journal we are submitting. Based on those guidelines, we do our referencing. It's very important to note that the 6th edition APA, that is the American Psychological Association format, is very different from the 7th edition. And if they obviously now all journals, if you're using APA, will use 7th edition. It's important to follow all the rules of the 7th edition APA, and note that even the DOI, that is the digital object identifier, is embedded in your references. If you're using Zotero or Mendeley, it's going to happen organically, but if you're doing it on your own, then you need to know that the DOI has to be embedded in the 7th edition APA. It's very important for you to choose your topic. And especially for PhD students, please publish research work in the area where you're doing your PhD. It's only wise to opt for research topics in the area where you're pursuing your PhD, because it will help you in your Viva was. It will always help you in your progress report that you will be submitting to the university where you're pursuing your PhD. Now, some tips I'm sharing with you of how your research fits the journal scope. You can always ask opinion from your colleagues. I feel that we should stop. You should reduce we build a lot of guard around us, and we feel that what would others think of us if we share our research with them. It's very good idea to discuss with your colleagues their viewpoints when it comes to research. It's a very good idea to speak to a colleague, especially if he or she is from an interdisciplinary department, because they can offer you a very fresh perspective. They can look at the research and they can identify the blind spots in your research very easily. You may develop a tunnel vision as a researcher over a period of time. You may probably look at research only unilaterally. But when someone from a different discipline looks at your research, they can identify the gaps in your research or the flaws in your research more articulately. And I am telling you, this has definitely helped me up my research game. I'm someone with very less ego, so it became very easy for me to take even a lot of criticism from my colleagues. It only helped me become the best version of myself. It's very good idea for you to check on the submission procedures and the norms that are prescribed by the journal. I repeat, please look at the journal where you wish to publish and then build your strategy around that journal. Read the manuscript guidelines before you submit. They make a very clear mention, otherwise they just reject manuscripts. There have been times when my manuscript has I've experienced a rejection because instead of 300 words abstract I sent instead of 200 words abstract I send a 300 word abstract. So it's very important for you to look at the nuances that are mentioned in the journal guidelines. Look at what words are required for manuscript, what words are required for abstract, what referencing style do they want, how much percentage similarity index is acceptable. So the plagiarism is the similarity index. Note that it's best and it's most safe to keep the plagiarism below 10%. And it's ideal to use a software like Turnitin because it will be able to identify even AI-based plagiarism. So it's very important for you to keep your plagiarism or your similarity index below 10% because that's the criteria for most high quality peer reviewed papers. Your abstract should be very clear, precise, and it should be to the very crisp. Whenever you send your research papers, see to that you follow the research ethics. There should be no conflicts of interest between the authors. There should be justice and fairness when you're writing a research paper, and they should mention the confidentiality in case you're doing the sampling. Whenever we publish, look at that you're publishing, you have to understand the journal's scope. So if your research paper does not align to the theme of the journal, there are high chances that the paper will get rejected in the first go itself. So identify the main core areas where you're writing your research paper and see to that you're aligning your research work based on that alone. It's very important to see that you're checking the whether the indexing of the papers also is very important for you to look at the impact factor. It's very important for you to check the impact factor of the journals where you're sending your paper. It's one very important tip I would like to share is if you look aiming at higher quality journals like Q1 journals or Q2 journals, it's good idea for you to look at the impact factor of the journals. The references that you have should ideally be of 2 plus. If you are going to aim for a Q2 journal, it's important for you to write your research papers and your references should ideally be from A or B category journals. And you should write, if it's from Scopus journals, you should look at journals which are having an impact factor of about 2.5 ideally. So these are the sure shot ways where the chances for rejection could be reduced. I'm being very specific without beating around the bush. Publication frequency. It's a good idea for you to identify which journals have frequent publications. Is it quarterly? Is it biannually? Is it annually? It's good idea for you to create an Excel sheet to understand which are the top journals in your area and your discipline. Please don't feel too what is one suggestion to my colleagues coming from previously I was from law school and I realized that my colleagues back there was to commonly they used to say that there are fewer journals in the law discipline. It's very good idea for you to identify journals which are interdisciplinary in nature and try to collaborate with someone from another discipline and try to publish in interdisciplinary research, interdisciplinary journals. So if you are from design, it's good idea for you to collaborate with someone from management, and because management journals, the frequency of publication is higher and there are more number of journals to choose from. There are more number of journals in the ABDC category as well as in the Scopus and WAS category. So it gives you a lot many options. So we need to stop working in silos. This is one of my major suggestions to all my faculty teams. What I suggest is this is something that will really work in your favor. Always look at the journal reputation. It's good idea for you to focus on only Q1, Q2, Q3 journals, because Q4 journals, what typically happens when you go to Sky, how to identify the quartile of the journal, I'll show you. You can go to SCIMO, SCIMO. When you move to SCIMO and you paste the URL of the journal, you will get to know whether it is a quartile 1, quartile 2, quartile 3, or a quartile 4 journal. So once you know that it is a quartile 4 journal, it's a good idea for you to not publish in those journals. If you are if you are publishing for yourself, it's for student, it's okay, because the chances for these journals to get weeded out, especially during December, November, December, these type of Q4 journals, they get out of the Scopus list. So Q4 journals are the first set of journals which get out of the Scopus list. So it's a very good idea for you to focus primarily on Q2 and Q3 journals only. So it's very important for you to go to SCIMO. I repeat, SCIMO. Paste the URL or DOI there and get to know which quartile journal you are publishing in. Over and above, I can share with you the latest ABDC list of journals, so that you know where you are publishing your research papers. It's very important for you to avoid predatory journals. There are many predatory journals, especially the UGC care list. It's a good idea for you to share, definitely create your own uh, unique login ID, and after that check on the UGC care list 1 and care list 2 website to see if those journals are actually the real, genuine, authentic journals, or they are cloned. Over and above, it's a good idea for you to connect with the editor, send an email to him or her to get to know whether this journal is genuinely authentic, because there are a lot of cloned and predatory journals with the same ISSN number, with the same editor name, and with the same aesthetics. So it's very important for us as professors to be very careful that we don't get cloned, we don't get duped into this. Over and above, we have our very, very helpful and very, very brilliant librarian, ma'am, Dr. Manchu. This is what I have been following. I do send a mail to her also, where she cross verifies the authenticity after I have done my initial check. So this way you can safeguard yourself from actually publishing in any kind of predatory journal after checking the DOAG. Moving on to um, yeah, always prepare the manuscript based on the author's guide. So every journal has got its own author guidelines. It's good idea for you to follow the author guidelines strictly and do not deviate from there. Right from the abstract, the introduction, the methods, the results, the discussion, the conclusion, all of it is provided by the journal, and it's good to follow it to the T. It's very important for you to submit the research paper on time, because it creates a very negative impression if you keep asking and you keep delaying and you do continuously flout the timelines that have been prescribed by the journal. Now, there are times when we do receive rejections. Okay, even I have received, everyone, all of us have received rejection. You cannot expect a Q2 journal or a B or A category journal to send you an acceptance without any revisions. That's not happening. I'm a reviewer myself. I've never done that in my life. So it's very important for us to understand what are the three things that we receive. One is accept with revisions. There could be minor revisions or there could be major revisions suggested. Never, I repeat myself, never argue with the peer reviewer or the editor for the suggestions that are provided to them. Just follow it as it is. Because the minute you set a tone to your email where you are argumentative and where you are not actually validating the suggestions provided by a core team of reviewers, trust me, your research paper is getting into the reject section immediately. Next is revise and resubmit. So these are the second. This is the second. That means these are not minor changes. These are major changes. So they may suggest some major changes before you accept, before you actually, before they accept your paper. Many times I have received this myself, where I have, where the reviewers have sent me major changes. does make you feel demotivated, but trust me, it makes you the better version of yourself. I feel what I have not learned in my years of PhD completion or in my years of research paper writing, I have learned from the comments that I've received from these esteemed reviewers. So I feel it's one of the best. The feedback mechanism is something that we should really respect. It's a learning curve for us as researchers, and we should definitely try to help. It helps us become the best version of ourselves. Suppose our paper is rejected, that means there are high chances the paper gets rejected if the manuscript is not aligning to the theme of the journal. So just don't write anything and submit it anywhere. It's very important for us to know what are the core and the peripheral areas that the research journal belongs to, and then submit accordingly. Reject. Sometimes our paper gets completely rejected, and which is okay. It's absolutely normal to get a paper. It's on the contrary, it helps you become the best version of yourself. Failures are definitely learning curves, and it definitely helps us become invincible. So when it comes to rejection, take it in your stride, pick up the cues, pick up the learnings, and try to move on to another research journal where you can send your paper, which is more aligned to its theme. It's a good idea for you to revisit the paper, ask your colleagues, ask your friends, ask a mentor. It's a very good idea for you to pick on a mentor who can really help you and guide you. It will completely change your research trajectory forever. So it's good idea for you to take opinions from people in different fields so that they can help you identify what's gone wrong with the research paper. Revise your paper based on whatever suggestions and remain flexible. Rework on your paper. Please do not argue with the reviewers. Even when you're ultimately rejected to your paper journal, rewrite your research paper. Remember, a rejected paper does not actually mean a bad paper. As I repeat myself, sometimes papers get rejected because you're not able to maintain the theme of the journal. Numerous factors are out of your control, and you need to go ahead when it comes to research paper publication. It's very important for you to check the journal ranking. So it's very important for you to check, which category journal are you submitting to. Of course, we have the A, B, D, C, we have A star, we have A, we have B, we have, and the C category. Whenever it comes to publishing collaboratively with students, it's a good idea to offer a C category journal initially. I'm not a very big fan of publishing in the UGC careless until and unless I have identified an authentic journal in that category, because there are a lot many journals which are cloned and predatory in nature. So it's good idea for you to identify a C category journal and first teach the students step by step the basics of research. When you teach them the basics of research, first get them into a habit of identifying the keywords where they wish to write the research paper. Next step is to help them frame the topic based on the premises of the keywords. Next step is to teach them how to do the Google Scholar search by using the right filter, that is the Scopus filter, and the right keyword mix. And then move on to teaching them that the papers that they select for their references should be very contemporary in nature and only from the past 3 to 4 years. When you teach them this, you're teaching them the nuances of research early on, and you're laying a very strong foundation for them. And you're not coaxing them to publish only for the sake of publication, but you are actually fostering a culture of research which makes them invincible. It's very important for you to even check the Egan factor of the journal, so that a rating, that is a total importance of the scientific journal according to the number of incoming citations. So I told this previously, especially when you are publishing in A star or A category journals, they want you to write your references from A and A star category journals. They want you to write from research papers which are highly cited. So if you are going to aim for a journal which is an A category journal, it's a good idea for you to use highly cited papers. This is also one more takeaway, that you have to look at the citations of the papers so that you use only those papers which are highly cited in your references, especially if you're looking at a top tier journal. You can go to SkyMago or you can go to Scopus's Elsevier website to check the authenticity. There are a lot many messages that get circulated that this journal is going to go for this after this conference, AIP conference proceeding. They're going to publish it in a Scopus Index journal. Very often, friends of our community get duped because of these fake processes that have entered our system. It's a good idea for you to authentically check if the papers are if the journal is actually Scopus indexed or not. Just go to Scopus Elsevier and put the URL or the DOI of the journal, and you'll be able to figure that out. Sometimes you can even go to SkyMago where you can check the the SkyMo. You can check the quartiles of the journal and whether it is Scopus indexed or not. This is not applicable for students, so I'm moving to the next slide, which talks about it's very important for us to take action when it comes to research. And whatever ideas that we get, it's good to document those ideas. It's also very important because we are living and if we're talking about curating a research culture for Gen Z, it's really good idea for them to share their small wins on social media. So if your student has written a paper and you just coax them, you guide them, you coach them to go present that paper in a national or international conference, let them click geotag pictures, let them share the small win on social media platforms. You give them, a recommendation for that. You celebrate their wins. Trust me, they will become really very motivated. Go ahead and work harder for research. We are a generation that relies heavily on social media, and when you actually kind of, motivate their small wins, they will definitely help. This will help them become, more motivated to take research more seriously. If your papers you're experiencing failures, please don't get into this feeling of, oh my god, what has happened and my paper has got rejected. Just take it in your stride. I am pick up cues from your failure and move ahead. It's very important for us to understand and gain perspective why we have failed. um, Next is consistency over motivation. I'm a very big fan for consistency because motivation is very often dependent on many extrinsic factors, whereas consistency is very intrinsic in nature. So, if you make your mindset that of an invincible person, a person who does not get demotivated by external factors, there are high chances nobody can help you become stop your progress. One more very big, very most, I feel the most important thing I should have said at the start. Research is not administrative, random work which could be done as you take it, you could take it at any part of your day. So when you're researching, you need to know that you have to batch time for research, especially for PhD scholars. This idea I'm rolling out for PhD scholars. Batch time for research. So if I'm going to do research and I know that 5 to 6 p.m. is a time or 8 to 9 in the morning, I'm going to research daily. When I batch time for research, at that time, I'm not answering the phone, I'm not making a cup of coffee, I'm not answering emails, I'm not reaching out for my WhatsApp messages or texts. So whenever you're doing research, primarily you need to know that it's deep work. If you are, if you, I would take this opportunity to also suggest your book, Carl Newport's Deep Work. So he talks primarily about batching of time. So when you're doing deep work activity, you cannot do shallow work. So all of this, what I said, is sending an email or replying on a text, or you are just getting up to answer the door. These are the activities which are very important. I'm not denying their importance, but they could be monotonous or repetitive in nature, which does not require higher brain frequency. So you need to understand that when you're doing research, you're not doing other activities. You have to batch time for research. uh, just finish the paper. Be very, very, create timelines, stick to those timelines, honor those timelines. Do not get complacent with yourself. If you are a true blooded researcher in the world of muggles, then you will definitely validate the need for sticking to timelines when it comes to research, because that's going to be a game changer for you. That's going to be something that most people falter, although they're very bright, they're very smart, they work very hard. They're not methodological when it comes to managing their time. Okay, this is an important slide for us. How to spot a predatory journal. I'll just take a pause for a minute, please. Always check if the journals is a direct or open access journal or a community of publication or OASPM or STM. Does the journal have an impact factor? Research about the editorial board. That's something I always do. Check the publisher. Always, it's a good idea to check what kind of work they've previously published also. So if the journal has always been publishing history based article or English literature articles, if they are accepting your article based on artificial intelligence or commerce, that means it's a red flag. It's very important for you to understand that what nature of article are they publishing, what is the theme of the journal, and if they're going to accept a paper completely from a different theme, you need to understand there are high chances for it to be predatory in nature. Please go to Elsevier website, Scopus website to check if it's authentically Scopus indexed and in which quartile does it belong to. I repeat, if you want to check the quartile, go to SCIMO, SCIMO to check whether it is Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. You can also check it on SkyMago. Look at the review process and timeline. So if at all I get acceptance for a research paper immediately in the next 15 days of sending it, stating that my paper has been accepted and they congratulate me, I immediately come to know it's predatory journal. Because no journal which is quality journal is ever in my life of in my years of experience of as a researcher, I have never experienced that I have received an acceptance letter in the first shot. It's not happened for quality journals at all. Always I have received revisions. For my publication recently that happened with Emerald, I received it thrice. There have been times when I felt very low after I've received the revisions, but trust me, it makes you the best version of yourself. This is the preliminary steps for research. First, it's very important for you to document your idea. Now, I would take some time. I would want some time here. Whenever I talk about documenting your idea, there are students, they're so bright and they're so intelligent, and they come to us stating that what is the idea that we wish to share. I want to share. I want to write on something. I want to write on something that's trending. It's very important to write research papers on something that is trending, which are hot topics, which are having great buzzwords. But also, it's very important for us to understand that if it's a very new topic and there is not enough literature review, you will not be able to write a good research paper. So it's very, very important for me to see that there's enough literature review already on what paper I wish to write. I can always identify a gap and always create contribute to new body of literature based on what is pre-existing. So this is one more. See, if you notice every 10 minutes that I'm speaking, there are some takeaways from what I speak. I think that's what is the whole session all about. You should be able to have at least 8 to 10 takeaways from what I spoke to you today. You should be able to, your idea should be very crystal clear. What is special about your idea? Nobody is interested in research that is not novel, that does not contribute to existing body of literature. Whom is it beneficial to? So identify, you have a unique idea. Who are the stakeholders who will benefit from that idea of yours? It's very important for you to build your idea and connect it to that stakeholder so that your research will be a true contribution to the existing body of literature. It's very important for you to, I'm a big fan of literature review. So until and unless, to be honest, I've reviewed 70 articles, I'm not going to even derive research questions. So it's very important for you to exhaustively review literature, see how it cascades, see how it flows, what are the ebbs and flows of it, and how it has evolved over a period of time. After you figure this, after you trace this, then you are able to frame crisp research questions. Then you are able to frame your hypothesis based on the literature review. Then you are able to try to highlight the expected outcome. It's a very good idea for you to connect your literature review with your research objectives to your hypothesis to your research questions. These are all interconnected. If you don't synthesize or corroborate or try to bring synergy between all these things which I just spoke to you, that means your literature review, your objectives, your research problem, all of this, if you're not able to bring synthesis, it means there is a lacuna in your work. So it's good idea for you to create a small Excel sheet and try to synthesize these things together. Another takeaway I give you, have identified a gap. So this I repeat myself. Need to reiterate it. Nobody wants to actually accept a manuscript which is old wine in a new bottle. You have to see that there is an actual research gap, and you have to identify unique research problems. Unique research problems can be identified only after you have exhaustively reviewed literature. Also, one more tip at this stage, please create literature, create research work only that is globally acceptable. That means you are not writing a research paper for Mumbai or India or South Asian readers. You are writing research paper that someone sitting in the US or someone in Spain or someone sitting in Russia also would want to read. Okay, so you have to write on topics which have global implications. You have to write on topics. You also should use references, preferably only in English, because especially I've seen a lot of Spanish and Latin researchers typically write and use references from Spanish and Latin journals. It becomes very difficult for other authors from different regions to be able to use that work then. So you should have that vision that your research work should have a global acceptance. Um, this is what is literature review: the use of ideas, particular approach to the topic, and demonstrates research contributions. Um, Okay, let's try to understand literature review better. Literature review primarily focuses, after you have done an exhaustive literature review, it's a good idea to identify a research problem. And what you should do is try to find the problem you feel passionate about. So I feel that before you actually try to identify the research gap, it's a brilliant idea to find the research problem. This is the next takeaway from my session, that every researcher I meet says, what's the research gap? What's the research gap? Yes, research gap will come, but please first focus on actually framing a research problem. You can derive research solutions, you can curate them and craft them with dexterity only once you've actually identified the research problem. So I feel the core of research work lies with identifying the right research problems. I feel we need a lot many AI tools here to actually identify research problems, more than just reading, just synthesizing literature review through AI tools. Um, so we need to identify literature gap after we have actually found out the research problem. This is an Excel sheet which you can use. As you can see, you can put your article, you can put your year, you can put the title of your research, you can write authors, you can write the journal, you can write the keywords, what was the paper type, whether it was a paper or a book chapter, you can write that. You can write the country of the study, write the objectives, you can write the sample, you can see all of these details. Now, I repeat myself, if you're going to try to publish in an A category or a quartile one journal, it's a good idea for you to pick up journals, from A and A star category and from Q1 category, and journals which have high citations and journals which have a high impact factor. So all of this synergized together would definitely be a heady mix for you to get into publishing in quality peer-reviewed journals. See to that the methodology, what you do here additionally is you can create another, Excel column where you write ABDC. So you should write which category the journal belongs, whether it is the A, B, or C category. If you identify there are few in the C category, it's good idea to weed them out if you're actually looking at publishing in a A or B category journal. Moving on to developing literature review. What is known about the subject? What are the gaps? What is the consensus on the topic? What are the problems identified? What is the literature review about? So whenever you develop literature review, see to that you're writing literature review on the topic where you focus on how the topic has evolved. What are the theories that are related to the topic so that there is a theoretical implication to your study? It's very important for you to also understand that where is this literature review actually coming from? So what is the geographical underpinning of the literature review that you're reading? Like, it's a good idea for you to document that too, because it will help you in funneling your research work. These are few interesting diagrams which help you to understand and structure your research more strategically. Research questions. Of course, research questions are very important. Like, as you can see here, there is one research question that is framed: do financial compensation, communication, and satisfaction at work influence the increase the motivation of employees in the secondary banking system in Tirana? Why I'm sharing this is it's very important for your research question to be precise, unambiguous, and to the point. You don't want a research question which creates confusion, because it's very difficult to test anything if it's not framed correctly. I'm not going to do independent and dependent variable because it's a different. We'll move to a different tangent altogether, and nor am I going to do types of hypothesis. It's more not something that I want to bring to the table as of today. Note that if you've been asked to follow the 7th edition APA format, note that you have to mention the DOI that I've done on the right hand side, Malik and Tripathi. You see the citation. See to that you follow all the nuances that are required for the 7th edition APA. There are multiple referencing style, as you can see: APA, MLA, Chicago, Oxford, Harvard, IEEE, CSE. See that it's very important for you to read the guidelines of the journal and prescribe to those guidelines very strictly. Do not try to change, modify the guideline, because that becomes the primary reason for which you'll face rejection. Now, this is how you build a smart abstract. I'm a big fan of Elsevier and Emerald publications, but if you see, Emerald has a different strategy as opposed to Elsevier. Emerald, they permit you to have the abstract size up to 600 to 650 words, whereas Sage likes its abstract size below 190 words. Elsevier does not mind an abstract size anything below 300 to 400 words. So why I'm telling you this, it's very important for you to understand your journal guidelines and do not try to keep a fixed mindset when it comes to research paper writing, because your strategy changes depending upon the journal requirements. Moving on to understanding how to structure the abstract, you can see the layers here. You can see purpose, design, findings, practical implications or research implications, originality, value, and keywords. Paper type is a research paper. I told this right at the start. If you read the abstract, this study attempts to develop a practical understanding of positive and negative employee experience due to AI. It unravels human resource related to the onset of Industrial Revolution 4.0. We have been very clear about what the study is talking about. So the purpose should be very clearly stated. It's very important for you to clearly state your methodology. Your findings should be embedded in the abstract. Your implications of the study, whom the study is going to be useful to, the scope and the significance of the study has to be highlighted. You have to talk about how your study is actually of true value. When it comes to keywords, I usually suggest that keep the keywords from 4 to 7 keywords. Do not add too many keywords because it can really complicate. Keywords are the basis based on which your papers will get searched for. The keywords are the basis based on which your manuscripts will be accepted or rejected, because your keywords should be buzzwords, should be really trending ones. Your keywords are the basis based on which your citations will increase.
या म्हणत पाहायला Purva Sarode.
These are the different styles, and this is the most important slide. And then post that, I would be definitely open for questions. Do's and don'ts of research paper writing. I think this is something that will summarize all what I've said for a really long time, with the name of not actually boring you with the name, to give you some crisp takeaways when it comes to research, and not talking too much around the periphery and hitting the core. Try to understand that your work should be original. I repetitively, at the cost of sounding really repetitive, do not try to replicate other people's work. Other research work is for inspiration to create a novel research paper of your own. Try to provide action-based research papers, especially when it comes to papers related to sustainability or economics. It's really good idea if your research paper has policy implications. The chances of accepting these kind of manuscripts by higher quality and peer-reviewed journals is always higher if your research papers do have some suggestions which can modify pre-existing policies. If you're writing research papers on sustainability, it's a good idea for you to connect it with UN SDGs, because that's what's trending right now. Note that your literature review should be very latest. That means you should not take papers older than 4 years. Stick to this rule, and this is going to definitely be a game changer for you. Try to establish your hypothesis based on the premises of your independent and your dependent paper variable. Note that you should always have one paper which is your go-to paper. It's a good idea for you to download A category or A star paper and try to create that is the benchmark based on which you write your paper. So you're just going to follow the structure, the format that was devised by that paper. So it's a good idea for you to select one A star or A category paper, which is your benchmark paper, and build your entire paper based on that. Very, very important, especially Wileys and Emerald. They're like really finicky about the language. It's good idea for you to use Trinka.ai. There are a lot of AI tools which can be used very strategically. Students typically go to ChatGPT when they want to, write research. It's not wrong completely to use a ChatGPT 4 if you're using it with the right prompts, but you should not completely copy paste. Compared to ChatGPT, Consensus.ai would be able to synthesize scientific literature and text much better compared to ChatGPT 4. Consensus.ai. You can also explore multiple other AI tools like Trinka.ai or Geni.ai or Site.ai, SCIT, Site.ai. There are a lot of AI tools that you can explore, but first and foremost, understand the nuances of research paper writing yourself, and then move on to trying all your hands-on on AI tools. Your language should be very, very seamless, lucid, precise, free. It's a good idea for you to get actually your research paper checked through someone so that you can identify blind spots and the flaws in your paper. Use quality journals only for research. Always read the discussion paragraph. So whenever I read a research paper, after I read the introduction and after I read the methodology, I go to the discussion paragraph, because discussion paragraph is a paragraph which helps me understand the research gap better, understand how previous researchers were corroborated with the research paper that I am reading, and what novo they have to offer. So this becomes a very important paragraph for me. Always take backup of your work, see that you're uploading on Drive, see that you're updating it, see that you're writing the right dates. Like whenever I revise my paper, I always put in the date and time when I actually revise the paper, so that I'm not working on something. Of course, everything is on Google Drive right now, but just see to that you're not working on the older version of your research paper, because this could be typical problems that can crop up with new researchers. Discuss with your colleagues and always follow the peer ethics that you have to follow. Again, I have a lot of do's here. Try to publish your research paper on the PhD topic. try to publish in open access journals. So what happens when you publish in open access journals? There are chances of you to get cited. There are higher chances for you to get cited. So it's good idea for you to publish in open access journals. Identify core areas which fascinate you. So it's not just about what fascinates you. If I have to repeat myself, you should have enough literature review on it. It should be trending. It should be a very important topic. You can use multiple ways to search data on Google Scholar. You can use inverted commas, you can use plus sign, you can use and sign between two variables and keywords. Always use a Scopus filter when you research for when you find out. You will get, like for example, I write AI tools in talent management 5.0 Scopus. So what happens is I get research papers which are only Scopus from the Scopus repository. So your filtration process should be documented. That means that's the filtration process is done through the Excel sheet which I showed you previously. You can use site.ai if you're someone who wants to try to actually understand the funneling process through an AI tool. So that's something that you can learn. But I would recommend not before you actually learn the nuances of research paper writing early on. Give me 1 minute, please. I need to plug in a charger. Yeah, thank you for a small water break. Um, so moving on to understanding that your topic must be contemporary and should intrigue the audience. We don't want to write research papers and publish in areas where we are interested. We need to publish in areas where our target audience is interested to read. So you need to understand that you align your topics to what's trending. Literature review should be exhaustive. Anywhere between 65 to 70 papers, I feel, is the bare minimum that you should be looking at when you are trying to write a research paper for a high quality peer reviewed journal. Your methodology should be simply described. Discussions should be very elaborate, and this is, I tell you, the make or break paragraph. It should substantiate the data and the evidences that have been previously provided by you. So all the tables and the theoretical frameworks that you have created in your findings should definitely show, you should be linked to your discussion paragraph, which corroborates the findings of previous authors and your findings and shows the distinction between your, shows a distinctive advantage that you are portraying in your research paper. It's very important for you to check the citation style that is prescribed by the journal where you want to send your paper for publication. I repeat, they may have said APA and probably you've written in IEEE or you've written in MLA and you have sent your paper. There are chances for rejection because you have not looked at which style they have asked you to write your paper in. It's very important for you to thoroughly proofread your paper. It's good idea for you to ask your colleagues and your peers to proofread the paper. It's very important for you to identify clone journals. I told you about this in more detail, so I'm not going to talk about it again. It's very important for you to understand how your research paper can contribute to existing body of literature. Please adhere to the guidelines of the journal in text citation. There are a lot of research papers that I've been receiving when I'm asked to review, where the in-text citation is not done correctly. So I feel it's very important for you to understand that your research paper should be having really exhaustive in-text citation and the proper referencing. So in-text citations most commonly take the form of parenthetical statements indicating the author and the publication year of the source. So it's very important for you to do an in-text citation to give the due recognition to the author. So when it comes to in-text citation, if you are going to use definitions, you have to use in-text citation. If you are going to paraphrase somebody else's work and showcase it in a new and novel way, actually that is called as paraphrasing plagiarism in the types of plagiarism. You should not resort to that. But if at all you are trying to convey somebody else's idea in your body of work, again you have to do an in-text citation. So note that you are following the guidelines for in-text citation adequately. For introduction, define the concepts, highlight the research gap, indicate the future scope of study, and this paragraph I've done. There is one more slide of do's, that is deep dive each criteria for Scopus and address all reviewers' comments. All references should be from Scopus repository. I've been saying this repetitively. Only include latest articles. Organize your idea. Write one major point each paragraph related to that idea and start diverting. Like for example, if I'm writing on entrepreneurship, I can break that idea up into risk taking or market orientation and then write some pointers on that and do an in-text citation. That would be really helpful. Your aim for 75 citations minimum, revise and rewrite. Look at the rejection letter, see that what are your major learnings from that rejection letter. The Scopus Content Selection Advisory Board, that is the CSAB, is an international group of scientists. These researchers and librarians represent the major scientific disciplines. Year around, the board members are responsible for reviewing all titles that are suggested in Scopus. So it's based on what are their suggestions, your papers get accepted or rejected. This is another major takeaway for all of you who are listening to me. The acceptance letter for regular journals is 5 to 7%. Please target for special issues. Lot of journals which are top category journals do have their own special issues. Type and look for special issues. Their chances of acceptance increase multifold. Your chances for a special issue acceptance is 25 to 30%, whereas the regular journal category is only 5 to 7%. So this is something that I would really, really recommend you. Frame compelling questions. Your research questions are very important, and you can frame research questions only after you have done exhaustive literature review. Please, as a researcher, it's very important for you to note that your topic, you should have regular conversations with industry experts. So if I'm talking about, I'm doing a research with respect to burnout or always on culture, then it's a good idea for me to connect with industry professionals to actually understand without bias on my set of preconceived notions and have an open dialogue with them so that I can understand what are the top problems that they're facing in the industry, what are their top priorities, and how, as an academician and a researcher, I could actually contribute curating a solution to their existing problem. This is the most important takeaway, according to me. So, this is how we bridge the gap between industry and academia. By stopping to write researches which are redundant and which don't make real sense and do not contribute to existing body of literature. We need to collaborate with industry experts, try to understand their expectations, and try to provide lucrative solutions by curating strategies in that arena. Very good idea. After the introductory paragraph, if you remember, I layered it into 5 parts. Last part of your introductory paragraph, trust me, this is again a very big takeaway. Write in your own language, write a paragraph on the flow chart of how, or the roadmap of how your paper is going to unravel now. So a roadmap paragraph should be there embedded in the last para of the introduction, showcasing how your paper is going to actually unravel. Now to the don'ts. We should look at the don'ts more seriously than the do's actually. Completely avoid predatory journals. No plagiarism, no self-plagiarism is up to 4% is permitted. So please avoid it. Keep your plagiarism or your similarity indexes up to 10% is permitted by most journals, depending upon the journal guidelines. Do not try to create spurious results. Spurious results means you have actually interviewed 200 people, but then you are playing with the data and you're showcasing that you have actually interviewed 500 people. So this creates spurious results, and then there are there are a lot of ethical ramifications of this, and you should steer clear from something like this. Note that everything is discussed clearly with your authors, your co-authors, who's going to be the first author, who's going to be second author. See that you don't involve yourself in any ghost authors and other practices which are actually malpractices. There should not be any conflict of interest, because most journals ask you to sign, where you are signing with them that there is there's a understanding that between the authors and there is no conflict of interest. And you have to also give a right acknowledgement to the people who have helped you and contributed for the research. Use the appropriate statistical tools. Okay, so using inappropriate statistical tools. So if I'm doing PLS-SEM model, so is it correct to use a PLS-SEM model here, or is it correct to use an ANOVA or t-test? What are we studying? Are we studying relationship between two variables and moderating variable, or are we studying a cause-effect relationship? So it's very important for you to understand the theory of what you are doing before you actually get into using and cherry picking the statistical tool for your research. Not following guidelines is the biggest don't. Using of too much of jargons. I feel the beauty of research is its simplicity. If I speak to you for 2 hours, and even if you have 7 to 8 takeaways, I think I've done my job right. Which means that when you speak with too much of jargons, that means you don't have clarity of thought. It's very important for you as a researcher to be precise, to the point, and create your research paper in such a manner where you are not using ambiguous terms which can confuse your readers. Improper referencing can be a very big put off for the reviewers. Please avoid that. Do not use INB when you write your literature review specifically. Do not use ChatGPT generated content, especially it creates a lot of false citation. The biggest problem with ChatGPT is that it creates a lot of false citation. Instead, you can use consensus .ai instead of ChatGPT. Then I've told you there is Bard, there is Gemini, there is Trinka, there is Cite, there is Consensus. There are multiple AI tools that you can use, but that also you have to learn the intricacies and nuances of it. Do not consider journals which are C category or have impact factor less than 1, especially if you're looking for your own publication. If you're looking for a student publication, I feel it's okay to start with a C category journal because they're young and they're just learning. Important questions that you should ask yourself: is it proposed topic? Is it interesting? Is it challenging? Is it a current topic? Are the keywords prominent? Will it provide solutions to difficult problems? I feel this is a very simple slide, but it's the question that you should show your students first. So if you're going to have a conversation with your research as assistant or a student who's working and is made you the research mentor, this is the first slide you should show them. That it's not about you wanting to write a research because you find it interesting and intriguing. It's about whether this paper will be read by the audience or not. Is this topic trending? Are the buzzwords trending? Is it something that would actually provide solutions to problems? If yes, whom? All these questions need to be answered before you actually take off. It's very vital for you to write a research paper on trending keywords. Appropriate keywords help your readers locate the article and increase chances of your paper to get cited. This is now the final, slide I'm showing you. This is the observations sent for one of my papers by a reviewer. I strongly feel that when you are vulnerable in research and you're okay to show your flaws, I feel you grow as a researcher. So I'm okay to show my flaws, and I'm okay to share with you that what were the reviews I received and how I improvised on it. First review I received, as you can see, array. His introduction needs to comprehend the current state of art and future in AI. The author can also mention cases, statistical data. So this is how what I wanted to tell. I told you even in my introduction. Please, whenever you start an introductory paragraph, layer it with the definition, layer it with statistical data, cases, evolution of the concept, roadmap of how the research paper should actually unfold, and what is the current state and what is the future of the topic that you're writing. This is how, when you strategize it in this format, it would definitely work in your favor. Second is your literature review should at least have 30 to 40 papers. Now, if I'm trying to tell you, if you're looking at a B or A category journal, I'm saying 75 papers. Okay. Methods can be written in depth with illustration. You should talk about the methods very clearly. You can have a lot of subtitles. So if you see any A category or even for that matter B category paper, the subtitles are very succinctly provided, and you can also try to replicate that and draw inspiration from it without copying. And you can always share your recipe, but secret sauce is yours. I am a strong believer of that. Paragraphs can be distinguished the topics of discussion. There can be a tabular column that can be attached for comparison, and conclusion and future work needs to be added. The chapter needs to be done in such a manner there is proofreading, and it's very important for them to pick up an English speaker or a professional proofreader. So that means they are very, very particular. Journals like Wiley's or journals like Enron, where the quality of the research paper should be, the English should be precise to the point, and it should be lucid, and it should not have too many jargons. There are multiple titles for research paper. As you can see, there is a declarative title where you can see where you're disclosing the findings of the research paper right at the start. Like women leadership style can enhance inclusivity at work. So the findings of the paper is already declared in the title. There is a descriptive title. This is commonly used, like impact of COVID-19 on online selling platforms. There is an interrogative title which talks about questioning or provoking the leaders, like does mean marketing influence hedonic purchase intentions of customers. I've already discussed the abstract. I've discussed all of this in detail. These are the reasons why papers get rejected. Manuscript does not conform to the scope. There is a lot of duplication of work. There is insignificant results. Manuscript does not conform to the journal style, and the presentation is not good. There is improper rationale of the study. The study is poorly designed. There is lack of clarity in writing. There is superficial treatment of subject matter. There is preliminary results that leads to speculative intervention. This is about the quartiles. That is, there are journals which are Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. Q1 are the top 10% journals. Q2 are 20%, Q3 are 30%, and Q4 is the last bottom. Journals, it's good to identify whether your journal that you're sending it to, whether it is Q1, Q2, Q3, or Q4 on SkyMo. The same goes with ABDC journals. When we talk about decoding the ABDC journal, I have already spoken, so I'm not speaking about it. Again, there are multiple types of misconduct: plagiarism, submission, authorship, data manipulation, citation, and collusion. There are multiple ways to avoid plagiarism. Keep a track of your resources, cite correctly, do an in-text citation, quote, paraphrase, and summarize. Ask for help from your mentors. Do a proper reference management when you see that you're doing the right referencing based on your own experiences too. That's all from my side. I'm open to questions. Thank you so much. Shall I start? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm open.
Directly use those figures, or what should be the, is there a need for option?
So what we do, sir, for our management papers, I just want to go to the other slide. A minute, if you just permit me. And I'm experiencing a snag. Yeah. As you can see, whenever you are using anybody's work, it's very important for you to offer the citation. So if I'm picking up, like for example, what we typically do is, suppose I am creating tables or frameworks, I pick up data from McKinsey, Deloitte, secondary data from McKinsey, Deloitte, Statista, Tractia. So when I do that, or a HBR or Gallup or United Nations or a census report, I create my own, table, framework, histogram, or pie chart based on the data that I have got. And then I do an in-text citation of it, and I use it and do the proper referencing. You cannot take secondary data just like that and publish it. You have to do the citation. And you cannot take tables and charts just like that from somebody else's work and, paste it. It's not correct. It's not ethical. Correct.
How do these Turnitin also actually detect investments?
Yes, so Turnitin is a very advanced software, more than Urkund, so it can easily detect the AI-based plagiarism. So what we see, we are living with a generation that is a Gen Z who are very, very going to be very, they are going to use AI tools. It's just that we have to motivate them to use it the right way. So if I'm going to use a AI tool that is related to, I have a ChatGPT 4. Everything, the beauty of using AI tools is in its generative AI prompts. So you have to use the right prompts. I'm going to do a research paper on sustainability. It's a good idea for you to first introduce yourself. So I am a sustainability expert. I am a senior professor and been working in the area of sustainability for the past 15 years. And I wish to understand how ESG compliance is now a strategy for organizations to maximize their profits. So why I'm giving you an example is the beauty of AI tools is in its prompts. So you have to learn the right prompts that you generate the most optimum solutions and results. Next, whenever you have to make the students understand there's no harm in generating a broad spectrum overview of what you're looking at. You can pick up the cues what ChatGPT has suggested you based on the right prompts that you gave it. And based on that, you can do a Google Scholar search. अक्ल में भी अक्ल चाहिए. What we can do is, number one is that we can definitely bring it to the notice of the right people that this journal is predatory in nature. That's what I've done previously. So once you identify it's a predatory journal, you need to report these journals first and foremost. Second, obviously, you feel very bad because you worked very hard on the paper and it has now got published in a journal which will not give you the recognition that you truly deserve. So what you can do is you can rework on that paper. You cannot retract, is what I understand of it. You can rework on that paper. Can make it in such a manner, because we cannot even, self plagiarism is also permitted up to 4%. So it is already got published. So you have to bring it to a stage where your self plagiarism rules and regulations are adhered to. Rework on the paper, recreate a new title, uh, rebuild it, and resynthesize it and send it to another journal. I feel very sad to say that, but this is the only strategy I can see. Yes, I'm open to questions. Please, you can ask me whatever that whatever you want to. You have queries.
Hello, Karishma ma'am. I have a query.
Yes. Yes.
First of all, the session was very informative indeed. My question to you, sometime it happens that when we are searching for journals, the journal seems to be an authentic one, and we also go for the publication. And at times after that, we realize that the journal is being delisted. So, from that, so what could be done in that case? Like we had published just by considering it had been authentic, and sometimes after deliberate considerations, certain journals get delisted from their original ranking. So, what could be done in those cases?
So it's very important whenever you publish your journal, your research paper in the journal, to document the date when it was accepted. So sorry, published. So if it is published and at that time it was a Scopus Index journal, it still qualifies as a Scopus publication. But it at that time should be a part of the Scopus repository. You can always put the URL and the DOI of the journal uh, and retract the data from Scopus Elsevier website and maintain that records for you that at this date that it was a Scopus Index journal. So this is very important. Then if it gets delisted, then this happens commonly. So nothing can be done, but it continues to stay on your CV that your publication was Scopus. One important thing is try to avoid Q4 journals. I have told this in the presentation also because Q4 journals are the journals which have tendency to get weeded out
Okay.
especially
All
during
right.
December.
Mhm. All right. Thank you.
I would love to connect with all of you on LinkedIn, and I'm open to any kind of collaborative research also. Thank you so much. Sir.
The feedback of the session, everyone who's online, the feedback of the question is there on the chat. Please put in the form.
I would also take this opportunity to thank Aditya sir, Varsha ma'am, Hina ma'am, Indu ma'am, Siddharth sir for giving me this opportunity to be a resource person for such an esteemed faculty development program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for joining us today and giving your insights on publishing research papers. I hope everybody got benefited from your session, and we'll soon see quality publications from all our faculty members.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for spearheading the research program at Atlas.